You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Does Syracuse football have the toughest non-conference schedule in the country for 2025? Well, whatever your opinion is, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but just so you know, head coach Fran Brown certainly believes that the Orange have the toughest non-conference schedule in the entire nation for this upcoming season. Quick run through of Syracuse's non-conference opponents for 2025 in case you haven't checked the schedule in a while, or maybe this is your first time tuning in to Locked On Syracuse and you haven't already heard me say the schedule. Non-conference opponents this season, in order in which they will happen, you got Tennessee, neutral site game, followed by UConn, Colgate, and then at Notre Dame, which will take place in late November. It is definitely up there among the toughest non-conference schedules in the country, and I don't think there's any doubt with that. There's other teams with great non-cons too. Clemson is playing LSU, and they always play against South Carolina, so that's a tough non-con. Florida State, don't think they're going to be that great anyway, but they got Alabama and Florida they got to worry about. I mean, Alabama in particular, my goodness, Thomas Castellanos, again, he is just going to get lit up. I feel bad for the kid because he's talking so much smack and they're going to lose by 100. But anyway, that's Florida State. Tulane, I was surprised. They low-key have a very tough non-conference schedule. Ole Miss, I don't think Ole Miss is a team you want to sleep on in the SEC. And then Duke. Duke, to me, is a sleeper in the ACC. If you caught the latest ACC squad, which premiered at 5 p.m. Eastern over on YouTube, and if you're listening to this right now on audio, it will come out at 5 p.m. Eastern, you'll hear me say that. I think Duke is one of the big sleepers in the ACC. No one's really talking about them being a really good team because they're pretty similar to Syracuse. They have a second-year head coach in Manny Diaz, at least with Duke. Manny Diaz did have prior head coaching experience, but at least with Duke. And in his first year with Duke, they went 9-3 in the regular season, just like Syracuse. And they just paid a quarterback a lot of money than Darian Mensah. But Syracuse's non-conference schedule, to get back to them, it's definitely up there. It definitely stacks up with any other team in the nation in their non-conference. But what does this really mean? I think this is Fran Brown trying to get Syracuse football more respect. He's letting the world know that Syracuse is not a program that's going to back down from challenges outside of their conference. They're not going to be Indiana and cancel home and homes against Virginia, of all teams. Not Virginia basketball, Virginia football. That was ridiculous what Indiana's saying. Then he's like, oh, we're going to copy the SEC in their scheduling. No. Some SEC teams actually play against legitimate non-conference, out-of-conference opponents. I mean, Georgia last year opened the year against Clemson. South Carolina plays Clemson every year. Alabama, I mean, they're playing Florida State. I know Florida State is not supposed to be very good this year, but Florida State traditionally is very good, and you're not supposed to know that 5 years in advance whenever they scheduled that matchup. But Syracuse is not going to be one of those teams that ducks opponents outside of the ACC. And this is probably a good thing because let's all be honest here about the ACC. At least nationally, they do not get a lot of respect as a football conference, and they're losing the respect now as a basketball conference. But we're going to talk about football here, right? We know that if there's an SEC team and an ACC team with the exact same record, who the committee is probably going to favor. It just is what it is. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong, there is clearly a bias. That's for the SEC, for the Big Ten to an extent, and against the ACC. And so if you're Syracuse or any other ACC team, you kind of have to schedule tough non-conferences. I mean, in future schedules, this is who Syracuse is going to play. They're going to play against one really tough opponent for the next, including this year, for the next 5 years. Because if you look at their future schedules, 2026, Syracuse is going to play Notre Dame. It will be at home, but they are playing Notre Dame. In 2027, Syracuse is going to go on the road and play Penn State. In 2028, Syracuse is going to play Penn State, but it'll be at home for the Orange. And then in 2029, Notre Dame once again comes back to town. So Syracuse again is going to play against one tough non-conference opponent every year, as they should. So if and when the time comes, and hopefully it's as soon as this season, nobody looks at Syracuse and says, nah, they didn't play anybody. That's why they had their record. They played nobody. They went 9-3 because they played the bottom of the ACC, and that's that. No, they're playing a very difficult schedule. Whether or not you agree it's the toughest in the country as far as non-conference is debatable, right? There's other teams that have tough non-cons, and comment in the comment section below whether you think Syracuse does have it or not, but they have to schedule a tough non-conference because they know that the ACC in general is not going to get a lot of respect. It's just not. So you have to beat teams outside of the ACC to get that respect for if and when the time comes, which will hopefully be this season. It also leads me back to last year. I didn't have a problem with Syracuse at 9-3 not getting much consideration for the college football playoff because, quite frankly, they didn't really deserve it. They didn't. But this year, if they go 9-3, I think they deserve it. They would deserve strong consideration for the college football playoff by looking at their out-of-conference schedule, by looking at who they're playing in the ACC. They're playing all the tough teams in the ACC this year. Syracuse is not going to back down from anyone. Will they win? I guess time will tell.